Well, hey there. Welcome to the Kim Constable podcast. You can hear I'm smiling, can't you, in my voice? I have to say, I love it whenever you can hear a smile in someone's voice. And I'm smiling because I get to talk to you guys and I haven't spoken to you for a week. And how the hell are you? It's good to hear from you. Well, you're not really. I'm not hearing from you. You're hearing from me, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean, don't you? I love our time together here in the podcast. But I just want to say, I'm really sorry I didn't have a podcast for you last week because what happened? Well, to be honest, I'm going to tell you what happened. I was just fucking exhausted. If I'm true, I'm speaking the truth, I was just knackered. And I had put 2 podcast episodes out the previous week. I had done the bonus episode with the FBI negotiator, Chris Voss. If you didn't listen to that one, why the hell not? You need to get onto it. And then I did another one with the fantabulous Amy Porterfield. I mean, come on, please. If you haven't listened to that one, you really have to. It was so fantastic. And so then whenever it came to Thursday, we had worked so hard all week. I was absolutely knackered and I said to the team, you know what? I did 2 last week, so they can bloody well just suck it up, not have one this week. Well, it didn't quite go like that, but I was knackered. So really sorry that we missed last week. But we are back this week with another fabulous episode, except it almost is a wee bit of a cop-out again as well, because I'm giving you, well, it's not a cop-out. Let me tell you why. So I recorded an interview with a guy called Shane Walsh, and he's a fitness pro here in Ireland. He's, I think, in Dublin. Really, really nice guy. Asked me would I be an interview on his podcast, and I was delighted to because I love being on my fellow Irishmen podcast. And so he released the episode a couple of weeks ago, and I always listen to all my episodes that I record and all my interviews because I want to hear, do I say and ah and and I do say a lot. I realize that. I have to try and stop putting in all these fillers. And I was listening to the episode, and it was recorded ages ago before Christmas, and I thought, this is a really good interview. Actually, I sound quite smart in this interview. I sound kind of quite together, like I know what I'm talking about. So I thought, well, listen, why that rather than just, allow this brilliant stroke of genius be on Shane's podcast, I should bring it all over to mine as well. So that's what I did this week. I asked Shane, would it be okay if he gave me the episode so that I could put it out as a bonus episode on my podcast? And of course he was delighted to, because he's such a lovely chap. And that is what I'm going to share with you this week. I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this. Not only is Shane just lovely, but we chatted about, what it takes to build muscle, about, the difference between boys and girls growing up. We talked about women and in the workplace, and we talked about me building the business, and we really got kind of deep down and dirty in a lot of things. Not like dirty. I know where your mind went there. Not that kind of dirty, just like filthy dirty in the trenches, So wanted to share this episode with you this week. I thought you'd really enjoy it. And yeah, so that's what it is. But here, listen, before we go, I have to tell you that the winner of January's podcast is the lovely Judy Bounds. Judy, congratulations. You chose a Sculpt and Shred program. And I'm delighted that you did, because you already have my $1 Million Mentor program, and you are in, I think you have a couple of other Sculpted Vegan programs, and your review was just so absolutely beautiful. And I'm so delighted to be able to give you one of our Sculpted Vegan programs. And so guys, if you want to win a Sculpted Vegan program like Judy did, then you have to be in it to win it. Make sure you leave me a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. Send me a screenshot of the review. Here's a tip. Take a screenshot of it before you hit the send button, or before you hit the, the post button, because quite often they disappear into the abyss on Apple and people are like, where did my review go? I can't find it. So take a screenshot of it before you post it. Send it to me on Instagram at thesculptedvegan. My team goes through the reviews and reads every single one and saves them, and then chooses one each month, and then we announce the winner on the podcast. And like Judy, you could win a Sculpted Vegan program, even the $1,500 Sculpt and Shred. So without further ado, I'm not going to talk to you again at the end of this podcast. I'm just going to let Shane finish it up, but I'm going to go to the interview now with Shane, the bonus episode that we're putting out of this interview I did. I hope that you enjoy it wherever you are. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you again next week for another episode of the Kim Constable podcast. Kisses from me to you. Love you all loads, and talk to you soon. Gonna go to the interview now with Shane.
Hey guys, and welcome to the next episode of the Shane Walsh Fitness Podcast. So this is an epic episode. This is one of the guests that came in a lot when I did my recent story and question box. So this week's guest is Kim Constable, which is at thesculptedvegan on Instagram. Kim is an entrepreneur, a vegan athlete, mum of four, nearly 400,000 followers on Instagram, hosts the Kim Constable podcast, started out as a yoga teacher, and in October 2017 she founded The Sculpted Vegan, which is the world's largest online vegan bodybuilding company. And they have loads and loads of products, loads of programs and online programs for people. This is an epic episode. We talk about how she got into competing, the power of having a coach, both for business and for her own training as well, showing up when she doesn't want to. Talks about kind of homeschooling the kids and the stuff that the ideology is about that. Talk about kind of having a goal, locking that in. Showing up is the hardest part for a lot of people, and that is the big thing that a lot of people lack. We talk about kind of the media and how it's gone from potentially the media has led us from, say, for girls in particular, from the Kate Moss look to where we are now, which is kind of looking to build a little bit more muscle. And Kim's a bundle of joy, says it how it is. This is a raw and unedited version, and I cannot thank Kim enough for coming on. So guys, hope you enjoy the episode. Kim, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. How are we?
I am delighted to be here, and I am fantastic. Thank you. And it's so nice to hear another Irish accent on a podcast. I love doing podcasts with my fellow Irishmen.
Yeah, like I came across Kim from Brian Keane's, who is a good friend of the show, and I've listened to her podcast as well, which is the Strong and Sculpted podcast, which is incredible. She's had the likes of Tricia and some other amazing guests on. So, Kim, you were one of the most requested guests to come onto the podcast in the last few weeks. So I had to reach out and try and get you on. So thank you so much for doing this. So I'm going to let you take over the microphone. I did a brief intro and how you kind of got into the realm of fitness and competing, because it's not for some people, it's the next logical step when they start training. And for other people, it's like kind of like the Mecca. So how do you kind of get into the whole fitness and competing thing?
Well, I'm the kind of person, Shane, to be honest, that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it to the max. You know, like there's no half measures with me. My family always laugh and say, "Oh my God, here she goes again!" Like as soon as I get my teeth into something, I go at it full throttle, hammer and tongs. There's no holding me back until I'm completely full up with it. And then I move on. And so that's kind of what happened. Like I didn't start training in the gym until I was 37, believe it or not. I'm 41 now. And I was a yoga teacher up until that. I was always fit. Like I'd done Pilates for many years. I taught Pilates, and then I went into practicing yoga. I became a yoga teacher. And then a lot of people who have listened to me for a long time do know my story about how I, at 37 years of age, mother of four, walked through my yoga room one day wearing only a thong and a bra top for the gym, and went into my yoga room to get something. I had a small yoga studio at home, which was a converted bedroom. Really, it sounds terribly grand, but it really wasn't. And I went in there to get something from one of the drawers, and I, as you do, turned around to look at my butt in the mirror. The sun was streaming in. It was April. Bikini season was nearly upon us. And I thought, well, just have a wee glance there and see what's happening. And I'd never, ever liked my butt. It was always the one thing that I never really liked about myself. And as I, glanced at it in the mirror, or I kind of stared at it in the mirror with, the full sunlight beaming upon it, there was nowhere to hide. I realized that at 37, the skin was starting to get really kind of soft, because that's what happens as you get older. And there was no muscle in there to fill it up. But I didn't even really think that at the time. I just kind of thought, oh my God, my skin is getting really saggy. It looks like an old woman's butt. And it's, and I remember my dad always saying, my dad has these great sayings, and he used to say, there comes a time in a woman's life when she has to choose between her bum and her face, because, if you have if you have a fat arse, you usually have a fat face and you've no wrinkles. And he always used to say there's no wrinkles on a balloon, but it's true. If you have a fat face, you've no wrinkles, but if you have, then you also have a fat arse. But if you have a lovely slim bum, then you've, slim face and you've loads of wrinkles. And so that kind of stuck in my mind at the time. And I thought, what, I have come to this point here where I realized, and I'll tell you what it was, Shane, more than anything. I was a yoga teacher. I was, had a yoga detox company. Wasn't doing that well, to be honest. I was, making maybe 5 figures a year, but I wasn't, doing a lot with detox and nutrition. But I was only eating like
12 to 1400 calories a day. So I really wasn't eating very much. I kind of lived on this semi-starvation diet, and I kind of prided myself on the fact that, you know, food never tasted as good as skinny feels. That was kind of one of my mantras from years ago. And I realized in that moment that I couldn't lose any more body fat because I was as skinny as I was going to get. But I didn't want to get fat. And so I looked at my ass in the mirror and I thought, right, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to fill that up with muscle. And that was what made me go to the gym. I downloaded a program from a very well-known Australian fitness model. The very next day, I printed it out and I went into the gym, and it was a 4-week program. And I believed that in 4 weeks, I was going to have glutes like Emily Skye. And I got a short, sharp wake-up call 4 weeks later, whenever that was not the case. But once I went into the gym, it kind of reignited, I guess, or not reignited, it kind of ignited a love of muscles that I had always had that had lain dormant for a long time. My dad used to, read a lot of the muscle and fitness magazines, and he used to have a lot of the bodybuilding magazines. He wasn't a bodybuilder. I don't know why he had a lot of the magazines, but he did, and I used to look over them when I was a child. And so I'd always loved muscles. And I think once I started training in the gym, I realized, holy crap, this is what I have been like literally searching for my entire life. I loved pushing. I loved deadlifting. I loved squatting. I loved going, hard for 3 or 4 sets. And I loved how fast my body started to change because I'm the kind of person who pushes really hard into failure. And so because I was pushing really hard in the gym, I started eating a lot more. My body changed literally overnight. And so then, of course, once I got into it, I was like, well, maybe I could compete. Maybe I could how far can I take this? And so that's really how I got into competing. I actually competed 1 year, on 1 year to the day almost after I started training in the gym. I started in April 2016 and I first stood on stage in April 2017.
That's madness, because like when you normally hear, say, competitors and stuff like that, they're like, they have to do a lot of bulking in order to kind of get the muscle. Obviously the yoga stood to you well and kind of getting like the core and the abs and the basic strength there, but the genetics obviously was a huge factor. You talk about kind of moving away from, say, the 1200 calories, because that seems to be the magic number that, without sounding sexist, a lot of girls go towards that figure when they potentially go on a diet, and then they keep going back to it and keep going back to it. How did you break your mindset away from that number and allowing yourself to eat a little bit more?
Well, here's the thing that I have realized now since working with thousands and thousands and thousands of women the world over, is that women, it's not that women believe that kind of 1200 is the magic number. It's that women truly don't understand the relationship between food and building muscle. They just don't understand. And so men, I think from, a very young age, because, well, not even a young age, but men have a much better relationship with food and understanding with food and its role in strength, because men have always kind of aspired to be strong. It's something that, I think little boys are taught. It's something that's built into our culture. Men need to grow up to be big and strong and tall. And so I think that it's very much inherent in our culture that when you're young, you need to eat up all your foods. You'll go up big and strong and tall. That's what we tell our little boys, right? So men boys from a very young age grow up with this mindset of eat up all your food to be big and strong and tall. So men have no fear of eating. Whereas I think women have this fear of eating, and it's simply because they don't understand. They don't understand the relationship between your metabolism, between building muscle, how when you have more muscle, your metabolism raises, which means you can eat more. The harder you train, the more you can eat. They don't understand that food and calories and carbohydrates especially are necessary for building muscle. And so for me, in the very beginning, when I started training in the gym, I didn't actually change my diet because I thought, well, I know a lot about, in fact, I was actually quite prideful, I guess, in it as well. I was like, well, I've been running a nutrition company for many years. I know all about nutrition. Like, what are you talking about? I thought that I knew it all. And I remember whenever I first went to train with my first trainer and prep coach, and he said to me, I would have arrived and he would have said, what have you eaten today? And I would have said, I was so busy. I was teaching 4 hours yoga. I have 4 kids who I homeschool. So I was like flat out busy, but I still made time to train 4 or 5 days a week with him. And I would arrive in and I go, well, okay, I had a protein shake this morning. And what's in it? Just protein and water. Just protein and water? Yeah, just protein and water. And I was like, and then I had a protein shake at lunch. And then I had a cold bowl of porridge that I'd made earlier in the day that I hadn't had time to eat. And then I had that this afternoon. And he's like, that's all you've eaten all day? I'm like, Curtis, I don't have time to eat any more food. And so he then began to say, okay, here's the thing. See, if you want to stand on stage next year, you have to bulk hard. You've only got like 7-8 months here. You're going to have to eat, Kim. You can't, if you want to build muscle, you're going to have to eat. And I was like, really? Like, what do you mean I have to eat? I just truly did not understand the relationship between food and building muscle. I didn't honestly understand that in order to build muscle, your body has to repair muscle, rip it apart, repair the muscle tissue and grow. And to do that, it needs energy. And where the energy comes from is calories. And so once I then understood, for me, it was like a light bulb. I was like, oh my God, so I actually have to eat to build muscle? And he was like, yes. And I was like, well, what if I get fat? And he was like, well, what if you do get fat? You'll shred it off before the stage. So I think what a lot of people don't understand as well is that whenever you eat to build muscle and then you put on a little bit of what we call it fluff, girls are always afraid of putting on that fluff. They always want to stay lean. I never really went above I think the highest I got in that first year of building was about 20% body fat, which is still very low. Now I don't go above about 16%, even in an off season, because I have so much muscle. And so, but I went up to about 20, maybe 21% or whatever, but a little heavier than what I was used to. But I was happy to do that because I went very deep into research, as I do when I take something on. And I realized that when you put on a little bit of body fat, it just means that you've eaten enough calories that your body has used all of those calories to build muscle, and it has a little bit left over for surplus. So if there's a little bit left over for surplus and you're putting on some body fat, it means that your body, your muscles have utilized every single calorie that they possibly can in order to build that muscle. And there's a little bit left over. And so once I understood that relationship, I was like, okay, well, I'm happy to put on a little bit of extra body fat because I know that it's feeding the muscle. So I think many women just don't understand the relationship between eating, building muscle, and a little bit of surplus. And then also they don't understand that the more muscle you have, the far easier it is to shred. I can do a shred now. I can be stage ready. If I go hard, I can be stage ready in 6 weeks at any point of the year. And I mean stage ready, I mean down to 10 to 12% body fat. So, and that's only because of the amount of muscle that I have. So in order to build or sculpt this amazing physique that many women want, they don't understand that you have to go through periods of building and periods of shredding and periods of building and periods of shredding. And you have to sacrifice a little bit of the body fat during the period of building to build the muscle, to then shred it off again afterwards. It's kind of a cyclical process, and you can't be forever on a diet. There has to be periods of on and off in order to reset the metabolism and get the best results in the long term. But I think if more women understood that, they wouldn't be scared to eat. And I think that's what stops them. It's actually a misinformation or a lack of information that stops them from eating more and then getting better results.
I love the way at the beginning you kind of talk, because if you got from growing up as a lad, you would have looked at magazines, so like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you would have looked at WWE, and there would have been an awful lot more lads kind of like jacked or big and stuff like that. And then you would have, say, like China or Trish Stratus and WWE kind of coming in, and they would have kind of been kind of like the first ones to do that. And kind of coming in as a female, kind of looking strong. But now that seems to be on the mainstream. Yes. What do you think has changed? Do you think it's the education, or do you think it's the social norms or society's norms have changed?
Do you mean in bodybuilding in general, like competitive bodybuilding?
Girls putting on muscle.
Girls putting on muscle. Yeah. I think that everything, like anything in life, is just cyclical. I think in the 60s, in the 1950s, women were homely and round, and then they decided to rebel against that. They didn't want to be homely and round anymore. They wanted to be independent and free. So then Twiggy came in, and, girls went into the super skinny mode, and that went, the 60s and 70s. And then we had the supermodels of the 90s who were a little bigger, the Cindy Crawfords and the Naomi Campbells, Christy Turlington. They certainly weren't as skinny as then the next wave of supermodels that came, that were, in the noughties, that were, super, super, super skinny whenever size 0 became the new norm. So I think that for, I think more than anything, it's trend based and it's cyclical. And I think that, now women are moving towards, the more of the being strong culture. I think that the gym is no longer a place just for the men, because I think gyms were always a place just for men before. Women were intimidated by the weights room, intimidated by the dumbbell section. Whereas now I think it's just becoming more and more and more the norm. And so therefore more women are embracing that. Like I have a 10-year-old daughter, and we have a PT who comes to the house twice a week. We have a gym in the house, just a small home gym. I don't train in it, but the kids train in it. And we have a PT comes to the house twice a week. And my 10-year-old daughter the other day was showing me her progress pictures. And she was like, look, Mummy, look, this is whenever I started training with Corey. And then this was after 6 weeks. And then this is now. And she's obviously watching me because I'm a professional athlete. So I'm constantly taking progress pictures, or just, and for Instagram and whatever. So there's no shame in it for her. It's not like, she's not taking them to assess her physique or see how fat she is or whatever. For her, it's a data point. It's a curiosity data point. Where was I there? It's measurement, where am I now? And so it's starting even this young. Like her friend Emily comes and trains with her as well at the house. And the two of them are doing glute bridges, like proper full-on workouts with barbells, dumbbells, squatting, as well as some, interspersed with some HIIT stuff sometimes for fitness. And she's 10 and she's already now training in the gym and, taking progress pictures and being a lot more conscious of being strong and not being skinny or not trying to lose weight or, be emaciated or whatever. Now, of course, she does have me as a mother. So her data points are a little skewed, compared to the average girl probably. But I think that it very much is a cultural thing. And also then, of course, you've got the whole, like the rise of the bikini athletes and the stage athletes, and bodybuilding competitions aren't for the elite anymore. They're now everywhere. And so I think that it's just, as a culture, the whole sport is becoming much more accessible, much more widely available. And women generally just want to be strong and not skinny. But it may swing the other way in a few years. You don't know. But definitely for the minute, I'm enjoying the move towards the strong and not skinny, because it supports what I want to see in the world, I guess.
I love that about your daughter at the age of 10 years of age getting into the gym and stuff like that, because I always talk about my clients who are parents, and like they're leading by example. If they're using negative connotations or they're talking about food or themselves in a negative way, the kids are going to pick up that and bring that to their kids and generations and generations. 100%. So I love that's being knocked on with your kid, and she's using it as a data point rather than I don't like how I look. So that's huge.
Here in our house, let me tell you, Shane, having a big ass is a compliment in our house. My kids will go, "Mommy, your butt looks really big in that." And I'll go, "Oh, really? Do you think so?" And she's like, "Mommy, it really does. It looks massive." I'm like, "Ooh, thank you." And I get like all excited, And she goes, "Mommy, look how big my butt is." And I'm like, "Oh, you're such a gorgeous big butt." And I'm like grabbing and squeezing her glutes. And, we have so much positive body image in our house. The kids see, Ryan, my husband, was worried whenever I was, started competing years ago. He was like, "Oh, I don't want," because I was constantly assessing my progress and taking pictures and, and assessing my glutes and my quads and, and lagging body parts. And he was worried that I was going to be giving some kind of negative body image to Maya. We only have one daughter. We have 3 sons and 1 daughter. And he was worried. And I said to him, "But you have to understand, Ryan," I said, I am not criticizing my body. At no point do I ever look in the mirror and say, "Oh my God, I'm too fat," or "My stomach is fat." Or, I said, I'm critiquing my physique. I said, but there's no emotion involved. There's no negativity involved. It's simply an observation. And so I'm not teaching her to hate her body. I'm not teaching her to be conscious of it. I'm teaching her to observe her body and observe the changes and essentially become body aware and body conscious, which I think is missing in so many children these days. And so we never comment on our children's bodies ever. Sometimes I want to, you see them putting on a wee bit of body fat, if they've been eating too much shite and you're like, oh, and you want to say something. And, I really have wanted to say a few times, "Don't eat those crisps or you get fat." And I have to literally bite my tongue, to say nothing, because you never want to say anything like that to your kids ever, because that just, you do not need that stuff being downloaded to them. So I'm so conscious of never downloading anything negative to them and just trying to, help them to be really super conscious of what they put into their body, their relationship with food, their relationship with their body, and just, putting in effort and getting a result. I think that's what I very, very much focus on with my body, with my life, and it's what I try and teach my kids.
Did you have to work on the whole side of how you talk to yourself regarding body image and, as you call it, critiquing? But I think sometimes when people hear that word, they hear criticism as part of it and they kind of go negative connotation quite easily. Did you find that you had to work on that quite drastically, or was it an easy enough transition for you to make?
It's probably 2 things I would say. The first one is I grew up in a family of fat shamers. Like, I have to say, I've worked very, very, very hard to, overcome a lot of my emotional limitations that have stopped me being successful in all areas of life, which is why I am super successful in many areas. But so as a child, I grew up in a family of fat shamers. And even my dad today, if he sees and he'll say, oh my God, look at that great big thing. Look how fat that woman is. And I'll say, Dad, you can't stop saying, like, that's terrible. You don't know that woman's struggle or that guy's struggle. You know, you can't, but he was fat shamed a lot. My grandma was the worst, you know, his mum. And so I definitely had a lot of fat shaming downloaded to me. And I have to be honest, for many, many years, I was just terrified of getting fat. Now, could I say I'm completely over it now? I'm absolutely integrated and unified around that? No, absolutely not, because that is what I do for a living. But one of the things, you know, I always teach my people, especially in business, is that your biggest weakness is also your biggest strength. So I have two things. I'm a terrible perfectionist, like a perfectionist to the highest, to the nth degree. But that's because my dad's like that, and that's how we were all brought up. And so that is a great weakness of mine, because I'm constantly striving for perfection, but it's also a massive strength because I'm constantly striving for perfection. It's the same with being terrified of getting fat. You know, like I've never, ever, ever wanted to be. I was always so scared of being fat. And so, you know, I spent years and years and years and years under eating. But then what I realized was, well, I can actually build my body up, and I can, you know, now I have, you know, an incredible physique, if I do say so myself, but I've worked very hard for it. And it is, you know, for 41, I do have a pretty muscular physique, which I've worked very hard for. Would I let it all go and be overweight? Probably not. But, you know, you can say, well, is that a fear or is that an ethic? Probably a little bit of both. So, but then the other thing is, to just expand on that a little, a great way to work on those negative body images is to have a goal that you're working towards. Many people don't have a goal. And I teach this all the time to women. Women walk around permanently on a diet, and they'll say, you know, and I have people, I'm sure you do too, Shane. So I get on my Instagram all the time, and they'll say, Kim, how much cardio do I have to do? And I'll say, well, to do what? Well, to lose weight. And I'll say, well, you know, well, what's your goal? Well, my goal is to lose weight. And I'm like, great, really specific. Well done. You know, how much weight do you want to lose? How long do you have to lose it? And, you know, is it scale weight or is it body fat? And they're like, I don't know. And this is the problem, especially with women, well, also with guys too, but I see it with women constantly. They're not specific enough. They don't have a goal. So they're not actually working towards a measurable goal. They just have this fear of getting fat. And so they walk around permanently on a diet, punishing themselves. Oh, I shouldn't have eaten that. Oh, I can't have that because I'm on a diet. But without any measurable goal that they're working towards. So whenever you have a goal that you're working towards, you're happy to put on a little bit of body fat, or you're happy to not eat dessert, or you're happy to, you know, to eat 1,200 calories if that's necessary for that stage of your diet, knowing that it's going to end. Like I've been down to 1,200 calories before, you know, since I started competing, but only for like 1 week. The lowest I've ever gone for maybe 2 weeks is 1,300 calories. I try not and drop below 1,600 calories when I'm dieting. And so, you know, but I have gone down that low, but I know that it's going to end in a week or in 2 weeks. And so I think that women's lack of goals in general, working towards a measurable goal, is the thing that stops them from achieving, well, great things with their bodies, but it's also the thing that keeps that fear intact. Whenever you're working towards a goal, there's no fear. It's either, if I eat this thing, will it move me towards my goal or away from my goal? It becomes a decision point. It's not a fear of, what will happen if I eat this? It's like, okay, well, let me whip out my Fitness Pal and put this muffin that I want to eat into my Fitness Pal. Oh shit, it's 650 calories. And that's going to push me way over my allocated calories for the day, which is moving me towards my measurable goal of losing 6% body fat in 6 weeks. So I'm not going to eat the muffin. And you put the muffin back on the shelf, you know? So it becomes a decision point and not a fear. And I think that's fear drives a lot of women, but they really need to get out of that and start working towards measurable goals. And it's life-changing when you work towards a goal, because then everything just becomes a decision and not a fear-based reaction, which unfortunately, Shane, is how many of us live our lives.
Yeah, I think reaction happens to an awful lot of us. And I love the way that you've kind of brought up having a go, because my clients will listen to this and they'll hear this quote that I always flash around, which is a quote by a German philosopher called Nietzsche. He or she who has a why will overcome anyhow. And it is so important to latch on to what you want to do. And one of the goals that kind of has come in recently for whatever reason is a couple of my clients have started doing, say, photo shoots. Particularly the girls wanted to do photo shoots. A couple did them during lockdown, which was amazing, and that's an achievement in itself, doing it during that weird time as well. Mm-hmm. Have you got any advice to anyone who wants to go down that route, or where to start, or whether there's a coach? Time, I know time is very, very depending on where people's starting point is, obviously. But where did you kind of start with that whole side of things?
Well, I think that first of all, I try and everything that I do or everything that I advise are the programs that I sell, because obviously I now own the world's largest online vegan bodybuilding company, which I built while I was building my, my body and all the rest of it. And so, this year alone, we sold 30,000 programs this year. So I have a lot of experience now in dealing with many, many, many women who have these issues. And what the basis of all my programs is bodybuilding programs. Like that is, they're professional programs for regular people. Just a wee plug there for the company.
That's okay.
Really, but I'll tell you why I'm saying this, and I guess is because I think that what I've always worked with of the principle is you need to arm yourself with data. So I remember last year I had a woman who came on to, I did a live training on Facebook, and I was talking about, the fastest way to, burn body fat and sculpt muscle on a vegan diet. And this woman came on and she was like, oh my God, I'm so motivated. Right, that's it. I'm going to lose 50 pounds by Christmas. Now, this was October. Right?
Oh, wow.
So this was the middle of October. And I was like, okay, girlfriend, you have like 10 weeks till Christmas. You ain't losing 50 pounds in 10 weeks. It's just not physically possible, And so, and she was like, well, why not? Like, I know I can. I was like, no, you may really want to, but actually you're not going to, because it's physically impossible. The body can sustainably lose, if you aim for 2 pounds a week, 1 to 2 pounds a week, you're doing well. I said, like, sometimes you may go really hard at a diet for say 8 weeks or 12 weeks, and you may lose a significant amount of body fat, but at some point your metabolism is going to down regulate, and you're going to have to eat a little more for a couple of weeks, or exercise a little less, hit the reset button, and then start again. And so she was like, oh really? I was like, yeah, you have to understand the body. So the first thing I would say, Shane, to anyone listening to this is understand the human body first. Arm yourself with information. Research online, watch YouTube videos, download programs, read about how the body builds muscle, how the metabolism works, how the body utilizes calories, how the body burns fat, and first of all, see what's possible. And then, look at your body and say, okay, well, where do I want to be? Is it that I just want to lose body fat, or do I want to build muscle at the same time? Do I actually want to change my body composition? Do I want to look different, or do I just want to lose body fat? Because many women, and this happened to me in the very beginning, before I started bodybuilding, I always thought that all I needed to do to be happy with my body was lose body fat, because that's what you're taught as women. You're taught lose fat, go on a diet, lose fat, go on a diet. That's what you're taught your entire life. No one ever says, go into the gym, work really hard, sculpt loads of muscle, and you'll be able to widen your shoulders, narrow your waist, grow your glutes, grow your thighs, and your body shape will change. No one teaches you that. Everyone teaches go on a diet. So that's all women do. And so I dieted my entire life until I hit 37 and realized I couldn't feckin' diet anymore. I was as skinny as I was going to get, and I still wasn't happy with my body. And that's when I realized I can change my body shape with muscle. So I think it's about really understanding, first of all, where do you want to go? What do you want to look like? The first thing I advise women is get a picture of a body goal. Go on Instagram, like literally be a stalker on Instagram. Look up fitness models, look up bikini models, whatever physique it is that you aspire to, find someone whose physique you aspire to. I don't care if you're 52 and you're 20 stone and you've never been to a gym. If you find a picture of a 23-year-old fitness model with peachy glutes and long limbs, and you think I'm going to look like that, you print that out and you stick it on your fridge and you look at that every single day. Now, you may never look like her, but you have to have something to work towards, something to aspire to, and something to keep you going. Then when you know where you want to go, what you say is, okay, well, what do I need to do to get there? Is it just a matter of losing body fat, or do I need to also build muscle? If I need to build muscle, can I do it from home? Do I have to go to a gym? Do I have to find a trainer? What kind of program do I need to work? Is it a full body program? Is it a split body program? You need to get the data. It's almost like if you said, okay, I want to make $1 million. Okay, well, how are you going to make $1 million? Well, first I have to find an idea, and then I have to build a company, and then I have to, and you would work your way towards that $1 million. And it's the same thing with your body. So first of all, you have to decide what it is that you want, what's realistic in the time frame that you've given yourself. And then you just have to get going, Like if you want to lose 50 pounds, it's going to take you a year to do it. There's 52 weeks in a year. Give yourself a year to lose those 50 pounds. Most people, when I say that to them, they go, a year?
Yeah.
A year? Like, what do you mean? I can't lose it in 8 weeks? No, sweetheart, you're not going to lose 50 pounds in 8 weeks. It's not physically possible. And so they're unrealistic about what to expect, Shane, here, listen. I release programs all the time, right? 4-week shreds. We have women come on after 3 days and they go, I'm really disappointed. I followed the program to a T and I stood on the scales this morning and I haven't lost 1 single pound. And we're like, you've been doing the program for 3 days. What did you expect? Well, I at least expected that I would lose like 2 or 3 pounds. And what we have to say to them is, what if your expectations are not in line with reality? Women tend to believe their expectations are reality. If I believe it to be so, then it is. And we have to kind of realign them and go, no. You're going to have to get a wee bit more data here. Your expectations are usually out of line with what's possible. And how you realign your expectations with what's possible is by getting more data. How do you get more data? Do the bloody research, do the work. You know, the work in the gym starts with the work in the mind first. You have to arm yourself with information, you know, learn how the body works, learn how muscles build, learn how body fat is shredded, and then be consistent. It's the biggest thing that women lack, consistency. We call it the C word. I have a whole podcast on it called the C word, consistency. Women are so inconsistent. It is unbelievable. But if they could just learn to show up for themselves every single day, anything is possible. So, you know, believe it'll take far longer than you think it'll take. Show up for yourself every day. Have no expectations of results. See everything as an experiment and just measure the data as you go. And one day you will get there if you just refuse to get up or if you just refuse to give up. But the problem is most women think it's going to happen in 4 weeks. And then they're disappointed when it isn't, and then they give up.
I love that about the C word, because it is literally about showing up, and my clients hear me say that all the time. Like, even on the days you don't want to, literally just even go outside for a 20-minute walk just to clear the head. That's still winning that day. That's your non-negotiable. Even get out, especially with what's going on. The gyms are closed for however long when we're recording this episode. But you have the consistency word there. And the consistency has also gone into your professional career as well, with the work and the corporate stuff that's going on as well. Like, in relation to growing a business, growing the business can be the same thing. That a lot of people want the 6-figure business or the £1 million business yesterday when they haven't put the work in. Like, for yourself, what 3 tips to someone growing a business would you give, and why, when it kind of, and also the mistakes that you've learned along the way, because there's always going to be mistakes along the way.
It depends on what business you're going to build. I mean, I think that any business that you want to build, and I draw so many parallels between bodybuilding and business, simply because I started my business when I started bodybuilding. We turned over $4 million this year. So far, in the first two and a half quarters of the year, we've turned over $4 million. I only started my business 3 years ago. So, I built it at the same time as building my body and competing on stage. And what truly the biggest thing that I have done is, first of all, I had a goal. I knew where I wanted to go with it. I knew I wanted to build the world's largest online vegan bodybuilding company, which I did. I knew I wanted to have a multi-million-dollar turnover, which I do. And I just remained consistent to the process. Remained consistent to the process. But one of the other things as well that many people don't do, that I do in bodybuilding, I train with a guy called Mark Getty, who is one of the most successful, one of the biggest physically bodybuilders in the world. He's won every major title in his federation as a pro bodybuilder with NABA. He's in the heavyweight category. He's like 22 stone. He's massive. And whenever I wanted to build a lot of muscle, I was like, I just found the biggest, baddest fucker that I could find. Sorry for swearing. I don't know.
It's a great work away.
Potty mouth. And I was like, I want to build loads of muscle. Mark Getty, you're the muscliest man I've ever met. Show me your ways, leader, And so I went to train with Mark, and he taught me how to train to failure. And I draw a lot of parallels between bodybuilding training to failure and in business training to failure. And I take a lot of, I don't take, it's not that I take risks in bodybuilding. I don't ever take risks to injure myself, but, I would squat, on an incline hack squat, I would squat 220 kilos for 8 to 10 reps. And let me tell you, you can get squished like a pancake whenever you are, what am I, 10 and a half stone? So, in 220 kilos, what am I in kilos? 65 kilos, I think, 66 kilos. So it's a massive, massive, massive weight. So that's a big risk in a way, Now it's a calculated risk because Mark is there spotting me or whatever, but I'm willing to go all in, Shane. I'm willing to go all in. And I think that many people start a business and they go, oh yeah, I want to make $1 million. I want to build a 6-figure business. And then they do a little bit today and maybe a little bit tomorrow. And they go, I'm not really sure. And what will people think if I do that video online? And oh God, my God, if my friends and family watch it and they see me. And I'm like, who gives a shit what people think about you? I did this. I have a company called the $1 Million Mentor. I launched it last year, where it's just like a business coaching program. And I did a live yesterday in the group. I basically yelled at them all. I didn't yell at them, but I was like, we did a launch this week. I partnered with a girl, and it was a very, very last minute decision. And it was idea to launch in 3 weeks, which is generally what we do because I have such a big team. And I was talking about how, I made a lot of mistakes in this launch because I just used the formula that we have been using all year to launch programs in business. And I partnered with her and I plugged her into our formula. And I expected to make about $500,000. And I think we're limping towards the $200,000 mark. Now, that sounds like a lot. People are like, fucking hell, that sounds great, Kim. Well, it does, but you have to understand that's not a lot for the launches that we do in our business. And so I learned, we had massive, massive failure in the business this week. And I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. Like I thought this is actually far more work than I thought it was going to be and whatever else. And I was chatting to my copywriter, Alison, and she said to me, you know what, Kim? She said, do you know why you're successful? And I said, no, why am I successful? And she said, because you risk big. And she said, and because you take big risks, you have massive learning. You have massive failure. The bigger you risk, the more you fail, the more you learn. And I think that that's where many people fall down in building business and building bodies or whatever. Whenever I decided that I wanted to build the best, I wanted melon crusher thighs and a massive set of glutes. And I wanted a really spectacular muscled body. And I went to Mark and I said, Mark, what do I need to do? He said, you need to show up here every single day, 5 days a week and do exactly as I tell you. And I went, okay, done. That was 2.5 years ago. I have shown up to that gym every single day, 5 days a week for 1 hour, Monday to Friday, whether it's raining, snowing, I'm exhausted, I'm emotional. I've cried on the squat. I've got to the bottom of a squat with 180 kilos and burst into tears before. And, but every day I show up, whether I've had sleep, not sleep, and I don't feel like it or whatever, I show up every single day, Shane. It's the same as in the business. I show up every single day and I take calculated risks, but I take risks. And I'm not afraid to risk. I'm not afraid to put myself out there. And I said to the guys in my $1 Million Mentor program yesterday, I said to them, guys, I said, here's the thing. I said, if I said to you all, right, if I said I'm running a competition, the first person to get to 100,000 followers on Instagram, I will give $1 million to. And their ears all perked up, and I was like, what if I ran a competition and said, I am going to give $1 million to the first person to get to 100,000? I said, who here thinks that they could get to 100,000 followers, or who here would give it a bloody good go? And everybody was, it was in a live Facebook live in the group, and everyone was like, me. And I was like, okay, so given now that you would give it your all to get to that $1 million, why the fuck are you not doing it now? Like seriously, there's $1 million waiting for you over that hill if you're just willing to put in the work. So now that you've all said that you'd be willing to do whatever it took, why are you not doing it? And they were like, you're right. Like we hadn't even considered that. Everything you want is on the other side of hard work, but so many people want it, but they're too afraid to go for it. Or they're too afraid to risk, or they're too afraid of what people will think. And so they keep themselves small because of that. Whereas you don't even have to go all in the very beginning, but dear God, you have to show up and start and then commit to being consistent. Because if you're not, you don't really want it. People say, I'd love to make $1 million. I'm like, no, you wouldn't. They're like, of course I would. I'm like, no, you wouldn't. They're like, why would I not? I'm like, because you're not doing it. You're not even doing anything towards it. So of course you don't want $1 million, because if you want $1 million, you'd be putting in effort towards it. And they don't like that. They're like, well, no, I could if I wanted to. Well, then do it. It's like, I don't sugarcoat it for people. So I think that's what I did, Shane. I showed up every single day. And, I could give you all of these strategies. I could be like, you do this with your marketing, you do this with your website, you need to hire this person. Like I literally map out my entire business for you. And I have 3 companies, and we're launching an apparel company next year. It's in full production at the minute. And so I could give you all the strategies, but truly for anyone listening to this who's trying to build a business, show up, do the work, do it consistently every day, and refuse to give up. It took me 8 years to build my business. I started trying to build an online business when my last son was born. Sorry, 9 years ago. That's when I first started a blog, and I thought, I might go into something online, try and earn a bit of money. 8 years it took me to finally hit, well, I think I hit the $1 million mark after 6 years, but 6 years it took me to make $1 million. It wasn't easy, but I never gave up. And I kept working towards it. And I didn't give up until I found the thing that I loved, which was bodybuilding. And that's when I was able to channel all my energy into that. And I made $1 million in the first 12 months.
That's incredible. No, because there's so many parallels between what you said about kind of when you're talking about people losing weight, about kind of just showing up. That's the exact same thing that you apply it to the bodybuilding, you apply it to the growing the business. And I think a lot of people, as you said, are either fear of failure or fear of what other people think. And as soon as that wall drops down, it becomes a hell of a lot easier, because ultimately, if you're trying to sell, for myself anyway, I can only talk for myself. My thing was, it was once the whole fear of you're not going to be selling to PTs. The PTs that have worked with you aren't going to be the people that buy off you at the end of it. So why are you caring what they think?
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm talking to, say, John and Mary down the road who have struggled with, say, those, I call them skimming clubs, and trying to work with those style of people. I'm not talking to Six Pack Pete in the gym who's a PT, who's been a PT for 6 years. So I don't really give a shit what they think or what they say. And that once that fear dropped for me, things started to click. Obviously, there's still a little bit more to click, but it still started to click, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
In relation... Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's just like consistent effort over time. People, whenever they hear the weight that I lift in the gym, like I'm one of the strongest women that I know, and they're like, holy God, like you shift some serious weight. I'm like, yeah, but I didn't do this 4 years ago. I was squatting 40 kilos, 60 kilos was my top weight, 4 years ago. It's taken me time and energy and effort and consistency and discipline to get to where I am now. But that's why I'm here. I didn't start there 4 years ago.
Yeah, I think that is. I think when people start doing anything, they're like, "Oh, why haven't I got it already?" And it's very easy to jump into that whole "I want everything now." We live in a now generation by clicking on Amazon, click now or buy now or whatever the button says, which everyone's been clicking on like lunatics over the last little while. Back to kind of towards the kind of towards your lifestyle and towards like the food and stuff like that. Obviously, your name on Instagram is Sculpted Vegan, and I think veganism has been publicized both negatively and positively in the media, and people have critiques of it, people have positives towards it. What made you go towards it, and what has made you kind of stick to it, if that makes any sense?
I went vegetarian actually for completely the wrong reasons. About 16 years ago, like my best friend at the time went vegetarian, and I was too afraid of not being her best friend anymore, so I went vegetarian too. So I would love to say, yeah, it's for the animals. No, it really wasn't at all. But it's better to do the right thing for the wrong reason. So I went vegetarian 16 years ago. I found it very, very hard to give up meat. I really did. I had many, many slip-ups along the way where you kind of, you like shove a sausage roll in your mouth, in the car when nobody's watching and then pretend it didn't happen. Like you have all this shame around it. And whereas now I'm just like totally like, I just say to people, listen, nobody's perfect, rock on. But and then I decided to go vegan. It's funny, this is how brutally honest I am. My trainer, Mark, always laughs. He says to me, Kim, the day you walked into this gym and I said to you, why did you go vegan? And you said to me, because I saw a gap in the market to make money. He said, my jaw nearly hit the floor. He said, and I knew then what I was dealing with. I would never have to worry about you lying to me or pretending that you were, eating something that you weren't, or whenever you're on prep or whatever. It's because I'd never thought you were going to, give me a whole, because of animals and whatever. And it was like, there was two reasons why I went vegan. The first one was, health has always been a very, very, very high value of mine, very high value. And I'm you know what, Shane, I'm terrified of getting sick. I always just think, God, if I actually had some kind of, like disease, or if I had, something which was untreatable, or God forbid I got cancer or anything like that, I would be the worst patient ever because I am the most intolerant sick person you've ever met in your entire life. I am terrified of being sick. I hate being sick. Being sick actually makes me angry. I get angry that my body just won't make itself better. And so I think that because I've always had this fear of being sick or being incapacitated in some way, because like I talk fast, I move fast, I'm a very energetic person, I'm a highly motivated person. And so anything that would stop me from being that way is like, I'm just terrified of it. And so I guess that's always been a big driver for me. And I read a book years ago called The China Study, where it basically discusses, it's Colin T. Campbell, I think, wrote it, and he's a scientist, and he basically studied or he realized through studying rats, inadvertently doing some other kind of study, that whenever they increased the rats' animal protein in their diet above 15%, the rats that had tumors, the tumors increased in size. And whenever they decreased the animal protein in their diet below 15%, the tumors decreased in size. And this was like he couldn't understand this. And so then they began to inject rats with cancer. And then they began to experiment by increasing animal protein and decreasing animal protein. And they realized that in rats, this is how the whole study started, that they could turn on and off cancer growth in the body by increasing animal protein and decreasing animal protein. Now, the minute I saw that, I was like, well, I don't want to get cancer. And this seems to be it was proven beyond all scientific doubt that the relationship was there. Then this guy started studying the world, and he started studying the places in the world that had, the highest rates of heart disease, the highest rates of, cancer, all of these different things. And he began to realize that in the areas of the world, it was called the China Study because one of the dictators in China actually ordered this study whenever he got cancer, I think, and they were able to prove the direct relationship between the countries in the world that have a huge intake of animal protein and the direct relationship between, not only obesity, but heart disease, even all kinds of stuff like MS, multiple sclerosis, and autoimmune diseases and cancer in the countries that have a high concentration of animal protein in their diet. And then the countries that have a very low concentration of animal protein, especially casein in whey, seem to be the biggest trigger for autoimmune diseases and cancer. And whenever I read that, I was like, well, I'm just going to go vegan, because it was irrefutable to me what I'd read. And I was like, even if they're wrong, even if they're 10% wrong, the evidence was in front of me. And I'm a very factual person. I'm a very data-driven person. I always have been. When I saw the data, I couldn't ignore it. So I was like, well, I don't really care if I don't eat, eggs or cheese or whatever, because that's all I was eating, eggs and cheese and milk and stuff. And so from that point on, I decided to go vegan. And then once I went vegan, I started bodybuilding, and it was only just a short while afterwards I started bodybuilding, and I started searching for some vegan bodybuilding program that would teach me how to get to the stage as a vegan athlete, and it didn't exist. And because I'd been trying to start an online business or, foraying into the world of online marketing for the previous 5 years, I realized there was a massive gap in the market for a vegan physique athlete trainer. I thought, well, if I'm searching for this information, there must be thousands of other women worldwide, or, men or women worldwide searching for this information. And so I saw a gap in the market for a scalable online business program that, for vegans. So I went vegan for two reasons. The first one, first and foremost, was health. But then the minute I saw the gap in the market, that kind of cemented my decision to go vegan. And I saw it was a rising market, and I went hell for leather creating the program. And that's why I've had so much success, because veganism has been on the rise, and I have been able to use it to build a massive company, but also convert thousands and thousands and thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands of people worldwide, to go more plant-based, or to eat more plant-based, or eat more vegan food. So I would love to say it was for the animals.
Yeah, peace and
it really
love.
wasn't.
Yeah.
I do love animals, but I am more... I have a worldview. There's also a lot of stuff in the economy, like the amount of effort that goes into feeding one cow to be killed for meat could actually feed 2,000 people, which is shocking. And so I was like, there's a lot of hungry people in the world. I have a very macro view of things. And whenever I saw the data, I just couldn't ignore it anymore. And I just decided to go vegan.
Do you find as a vegan, you have to almost justify your choice for going vegan? Because a lot of people, I know from having worked with people who are vegan, from my experience anyway, it's almost, there's a lot of questions from people going towards them saying, well, why are you vegan? Why are you vegan? Why are you vegan? Because the whole peace and love, animals crying and all this kind of stuff can come into it. And obviously that hasn't been your choice, but do you find almost that you have to justify your decision to go vegan?
I think that people will, stop asking for your opinion when you stop offering it to them. Like, I don't, it's like, it's the same with homeschooling my kids. There's people who I always ask, I always teach people to ask, is this, or this is how I evaluate it. I say, is this person asking to get data, or are they asking to judge? And you will generally very quickly discern if someone is asking because they're genuinely interested, or they're asking to judge. And the only reason why someone would be asking, well, why are you vegan? To judge you would be if they feel vested in their own choice, especially men. Men get very attached, emotionally attached to their meat, because me man, me eat meat. It's very much in our DNA as, hunter, gatherer, slay the animal, eat the meat, ripping flesh from the bone, all this kind of stuff. It's very much ingrained in the manhood of our culture that men eat meat. Take away a man's meat and my God, what does he have left? It's like my dad. It's so funny. Like my stepmom was messaging me the other day, and my stepsister is doing my 12-day holiday charrette, and she messaged me and she said, oh my God, I'm standing here watching your dad's face as Sarah is prepping, doing her meal prep for the week. She goes, he's quite simply horrified. He was looking at all the, the chickpeas and the beans and the, the vegan proteins and all the different stuff. And he's just like imagining a life without meat, but he's very much like, me man, we eat meat, a real men eat meat kind of thing. So I think that if someone's coming to you and they feel emotionally attached to the way they eat, and we get so fearful. Don't take away the way that I eat, or don't take away my beliefs around food. And so if someone comes to me with that kind of attitude, you can tell instantly, and they're like, oh, well, why are you vegan? Or where do you get your protein? I go, yeah, it's protein, loads of things. And they go, well, do you not think that you need such and such? I go, yeah, you're probably right. So whenever someone attacks me or accuses me of something, happens all the time on Instagram, and they go, because the thing is, vegan, right, here's the thing, right? Whenever I first went vegan, I didn't realize that vegan means you don't eat or consume any animal products. So you don't wear leather, you don't eat honey, you don't wear wool or cashmere, you don't use any animal products that have been tested on animals, you don't get Botox or fillers or any of that kind of stuff. But here's the thing, but the angry preachy vegans who love to slate you for shit like that will also then say, well, I'll say to them, where did you not take an antibiotic when you were sick recently? Oh, well, that's justified. Like, well, why is that justified? Because I was sick. You're like, but do you see the inconsistencies in your belief structure here? Like, you're punishing me for doing something. Oh, but that's elective. Botox is elective. So whenever people come to me and they go, so I am not fully vegan, I am plant-based. I do still consume animal, I still wear leather. I try buy cruelty-free as much as I possibly can. But, I love Louis Vuitton. What can I say? Like, or Chanel, and I don't, and leather's a byproduct of the animal industry, honestly. So, if we stopped eating animals, leather would cease to exist because it would be too expensive. So I'm happy with my decision to go right to the primary source and not eat the animals. And if anyone wants to argue with me, which they do all the time on Instagram, you're not a real vegan. You should be called thesculpted plant-based. And I just go, yeah, you're probably right. Probably should. And then, but they fucking hate that. Then they get so angry. Right, that's it. I'm unfollowing you. And I'm like, bye. This is not an airport. You do not need to announce your departure. You can just go. But they want to punish you. They're so angry. And the reason why they're so angry is because, I don't know how I get into slating the vegans here, but the reason why they're so angry is because they go, I have sacrificed for the animals, and I don't eat salt and vinegar crisps because they have milk powder in them. And you're over there. Not only are you not sacrificing, but you're making money from the term veganism. You haven't earned the word. Like, they feel they own the word through their sacrifice. Whereas I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I'm just over here kind of doing my own thing and just, not eating animals and, educating people. And I, turning loads of people vegan. And so I think that, but then the carnivores as well get very attacking on the other side. I always thought it was just the vegans were angry, but let me tell you, it's the carnivores too. I get attacked. Like, I have a friend called Michaela Peterson, who's Jordan Peterson's daughter. Yeah. I don't know whether you know Jordan Peterson. Michaela is one of my best friends, and she is full red-blooded carnivore. All she eats is beef because she has many autoimmune diseases. That's the only thing she's used to solve herself. She and I are best friends. So every time she posts something on Instagram, and I'll be like, you're so beautiful, I love you, and all of her carnivore people come on, what the fuck are you doing here, sculpted vegan? Get the fuck off this page, you wanker. And I'm like, no, sweetheart, like, calm the fuck down. Seriously, Michaela and I are friends, but they can't understand how the vegans and the carnivores can be friends. It's kind of like the blacks and the whites and the north and the south. I'm like, seriously, chill the fuck out, people. Like, calm down. I'm just, you do you and I'll do me, and we may not agree on everything, but can we still not be friends? It's astounding to me that people get so upset and invested in the way they do things. I just think they need to work a bit harder. Shane, I always go, listen, just go into the gym and work a wee bit harder and work out all that anger and aggression. Focus on something, positive that'll move you towards a goal in your life. It'll kind of make you a wee bit of a happier person, and then we'll talk. I'm very chilled out about things. And when someone if someone wants to argue with me, I don't argue with people. I'm just like, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, I think it's, as you said, it can be a tribe, it can be a bias, it can be kind of that conflict side of things. And it is like, it's so easy to hide behind a keyboard as well. It's just like, just don't be a keyboard warrior. Like, just be sound. It's too easy. People love
a good argument as well. They love to get into a fight with you. They love to try and draw you into a right wrong. See the amount of people don't have conversations anymore. They just have right wrongs. There's no philosophical discussions. I am not interested in having a discussion with someone unless we're actually having a philosophical discussion. I will not get into content. I will not argue a point to be right. And if someone wants to try and do that with me, I just let them. I just let them be right. Oh yeah, you're probably right. It's like, this person isn't even capable of a philosophical discussion on a process level. They're so stuck in needing to be right. I just let them be right. So, it doesn't bother me.
It's a nice way to look at things, that you want to have a proper conversation rather than reacting, being reactive. The last question, because I know we are tight for time, is in relation to you are an amazing mother as well, and people, and from working with moms and parents in particular, the one thing that always comes back is, I have no time. And I'm sure you've been asked this question a million times in relation to, how do you make time from having an incredible company? You have your gym routine, you have your husband as well, but you also are homeschooling the kids and all that kind of stuff. How do you find time for that side of things and make time for yourself in all of that?
Two things. And again, it comes back to goal setting. It comes back to understanding your values and what's important to you. So I do this everywhere in my life. And so, the first thing I would say is, whenever I went from being a full-time stay-at-home mum and homeschooling my 4 kids to, starting this business and getting busier and busier and busier and bodybuilding, whatever, as soon as I could, I replaced myself. So as soon as I could, I hired a housekeeper, and she only worked, she worked, first of all, 5 days a week for 4 hours a day. And that was all I could afford. And then, as I could afford more, I got her to stay on more. And Lorraine, my housekeeper, is like my kid's second mother. She really is. She is like the mother at home now. So I hired a housekeeper. And then as I earned more money, I outsourced more jobs, and now we have a full-time private chef at home as well. And so my main jobs at home, during the kind of the 9 to 5, whenever my husband was working, were to take care of the kids and to prepare all the food. And so, because nutrition is so important to me, those were the 2 areas that I expanded into. Full-time housekeeper, I have a weekend housekeeper as well, and I have a private chef. So when I'm home, Shane, I'm home. And I'm present, and I don't have to do the laundry or, tidy up or cook the food, or, I love cooking on the weekend, but the rest of the time it's taken care of. And so that was one of the tips I always give people whenever they ask how have I managed to build what I've managed to build. I always say to them, well, you have to get to a point where you are doing only the things that you can do. And that's the point that I've now reached in my business and in my home life. In my business, I only do the things that only I can do. Everything else is done by the rest of the team. So as soon as I could, I outsourced. And this comes back to what I was talking to you earlier about risking and growing. I've always invested in people. I've always invested in growth before I needed to grow. I've just taken on a full-time financial controller in the business because we are massively expanding next year. And I know that I need a full-time financial controller to keep all of the accounts up to date on a daily basis, to manage cash flow, to manage all the new businesses. And, so that's a big investment that we've just made. And so I always have prepared to grow before I need to grow. I'm not afraid to invest. So that's the first tip that I give people whenever they are, worried about time management. In the beginning, you have to do it all yourself, but you have to try to get to a point where you can outsource everything that isn't a good use of your time. The second thing that I do, or I teach people, is you have to understand what your values are. You have to understand what is success for you in those areas. Many people don't even think to identify what success means for them as a parent. Whereas I sat down with my husband, or even just by myself, first of all, in the beginning, and I said, rather than running around with this feeling of guilt, which many parents do, I said to myself, what is important to me? What would constitute success for me as a parent? What would constitute success for me when I looked at my kids and I evaluated them? How would I know that I was parenting successfully? Because we don't send our kids to school. So there's no measurement of they got an A in geography or a B in math, or they made the hockey team or the rugby team. That doesn't exist for us. Those are not measurements of success, which are very external measurements, which I never wanted to teach my kids. So my measurements of success for my kids are, are they, self-taught readers and writers, which they all are? Can they all read and write and multiply and do all of those things, to a high level? Yes, they can. Are they all happy and joyful every single day? Yes. Do they wake up every day and have purpose and excitement for the day? Yes, they do. Are they good problem solvers? If they have a problem, do they know how to go and get information and find the answer to that problem? Have I taught them critical thinking and problem solving skills? Yes, I have. They all do really well at that. Do they have their individual interests, which they're passionate about, which I can help to fuel? Yes. Do they have friends? Are they able to socialize? Do they understand cause and effect? Do they understand the relationship of themselves in the world and how they affect other people? Yes. So I really sat down and was very conscious of what for me would constitute a successful child, what would constitute a successful childhood, and how can I best prepare my children for adulthood? And I was very clear on that. And then what would constitute success for me? How would I feel that I was succeeding as a parent? How many hours a week would that require? Or would that be time spent with children? Or would that be, and even measurements such as like my 15-year-old came to me the other week, and he said to me, he came in and he sat in the bed and he said, "Can I talk to you?" And he's a boy. And I said, "Yeah, sure. What is it?" And he said, "Oh, just this thing happened online and it really upset me." And he burst into tears. And I was like, "Oh, come here." And I put my arms out and he crawled into my arms in bed beside me, 15. He's 6'1", he's bigger than me. And he crawled into my arms and he cried and cried and cried and told me about the problem and what had happened. And I listened and I didn't try and change it. And then we evaluated it. And so for me, that's success. My 15-year-old, when he has an issue that happens online, comes to me and is open about that issue, and we can talk it through and we can share. He feels comfortable to do that. We have a deep and special connection. I do with all my kids. So that for me, Shane, is success. So I think that, many people say, well, how do you manage it all? How do you fit it all in? But what they're really saying is, how do you feel happy every day with what you do? How do you know you're succeeding? Well, you only know you're succeeding if you know what your measurement is. And many people say, "I'm ruining my kids. Oh my God, imagine not sending your kids to school and not giving them the opportunity to mix with 600 people every day. Imagine them not having the opportunity to play rugby." My husband was a professional rugby player. What if they never play for their country? Well, I don't really care if they ever play for their country. If they showed an interest in rugby, well, then I will give them all of the tools to become a rugby player. But I never had a goal for my children other than, personal measurements of success for them. I never had a path that I saw for them in terms of being, a doctor or a lawyer or being a famous rugby player or any of that. I was very happy for them to shape their own paths and for me to be there to support them. And then, once I was able to identify what constitutes success for me, then every day I just measure. Am I succeeding against my goal or am I failing? And if I'm failing, then I make changes to bring myself back on track, just like I do with my diet or with my cardio or with my training or with my business or with my, competing or whatever. I'm always measuring and evaluating and making changes based on the data. And I carry that through into my parenting, and I carry it through into my relationship with my husband. I carry it into every single area of my life. I think if people become less vested in the outcome and much more playful in the process, and they just keep working and working and working towards something and have less fear around it, they generally will find that a lot of their fears and a lot of their things that hold them back will drop away as I don't even know how to sum up what I'm saying here, but as they move towards something or as they build something greater in their lives, they will find themselves achieving more and more and more and being less fearful in the process.
I love that. I love the big sentence I took out of that was being present when you are with your kids. Mm-hmm. I don't have kids, but I think that's, especially now when it's so easy just to have phones or Kindles or PlayStations or whatever going on. It's very, very important to especially with what's going on as well. Mm-hmm. There's so many distractions. And it's really, really important to like for both the parent and the kids to be present. And as you said, it's an amazing bond that you have with your 15-year-old for your 15-year-old to be able, especially as a lad are not great at expressing feelings, shall we say. Kim, I cannot thank you enough for being so honest and so just being Kim on the podcast today. Where can people find out about yourself? Where can people find out about your programs and the podcast?
Well, if anybody wants to message me personally, I answer all my own direct messages on Instagram. My Instagram is at thesculptedvegan. My company, where we have many, many, many different bodybuilding programs, is thesculptedvegan.com. And my podcast was actually recently rebranded as the Kim Constable podcast. So it's available on iTunes, on Stitcher, Podbean, Spotify, and also on our website. So you can also listen to me babble on for hours and hours on end. People tend to binge the podcasts. Once they've listened to one, they tend to get into them and start binging them. So I love recording the podcast. It's one of my favorite things to do is talk, as you've probably gathered. You're like, she was definitely a guest I didn't need to ask many questions of. So never shut me up. But yeah, so The Sculpted Vegan is where you'll find me first and foremost. And everything else is on the website.
I highly recommend going over to listen to Kim's podcast. I've listened to a good few episodes at this stage, and some of the guests are pretty good. There's Brett Contreras on there as well, which is pretty impressive. So, Kim, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for giving us so much of your time.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
If you've enjoyed that episode at all, guys, please do tag Kim and I up on your story. The more reviews you leave up on iTunes and the more shares, the more guests I can get on, the more incredible guests like Kim and everyone else I can get on to the podcast. So please continue to support the podcast as always. You guys have been incredible. So I hope you enjoyed that episode, and I will talk to you very soon.